So let's cut the lights off that. Yeah, I remember. She marked it. Jen marked it for me. Yep. Can everybody see? Is it working? Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Okay. We are going to go and look at indicators. But before we do that, I want to show you about 4 or 5 slides to give you kind of perspective from a global perspective what's going on. Okay, this is what you're going to learn today. Very key. Life. Everything you do on your farm, your ranch, is you want to incorporate life into your operation. How do you do that? Covers, animals. That's what the system wants. Soil only wants 3 things from you. To understand it, animals, or plants. It's that darn simple. It's not any more complex. Connectedness. Everything's connected. Why do you want to know that everything's connected? So when you go out there and you start tilling, what are the implications of this organism, that organism, that organism? There are implications. You need to understand when you use a chemical, what are the implications? Notice, I didn't say nothing about you not tilling or not spraying. Did not say that. That's your decision. Last one. The goal is to understand the patterns and principles of nature and how to emulate it. What you're going to be required, let me tell you what this system requires. For you to think and manage better. But the rewards are huge. And we're going to show you how huge they are. Okay? Okay. I'm going to tell you about the most hardest surface on the farm. It's not the compacted fields. It's between your ears. My wife reminds me every time. Okay, let me give you an example. Every one of you have been social conditioned. I went through social conditioning. You learn it from the family. You learn it from the community. The reason we haven't gone to more no-till and covers is because social conditioning. You're an idiot if you go down this path. You're an idiot, and they all judge you by that. So that's social conditioning. You work for the government, that's really good social conditioning. I know, I've been indoctrinated. Here's another level of indoctrination. Universities. And in the final one, your church. We all go through social conditioning. And unfortunately, a majority of them are not right. Now, mindset is everything. What's the difference between some of the top farmers in the country that make this system work, and they're good at it, and they're making lots of money? They never give up. They do not have a fixed mindset. They look at a failure as an opportunity to learn. That's the big difference of the people that are good at this. In fact, I recommend right here, right now, I will tell you, I do not recommend you doing cover crops if you do not understand, not committed. Because you're going to go and do it, and you're going to blast it at the coffee shop. I prefer you still be addicted to your tools and barely make it. Please don't do this if you're not committed. That's why I love people when they work together in groups. They hold each other accountable. Our land is too precious. Okay, relationship. Everything's connected. Everything is one. Do you know who talked like this for a long time? Ancient societies, biblical societies. It was all about connectedness. It was all about relation. It was all about whole. Native Americans understood relationship. They understood connectedness. European countries, we isolated things. We make distinction, and distinction is important, guys. Please misunderstand. If there's a cougar running at me, I need to make a distinction and run. We need that. But here's the problem. You also need to understand relationships. We're horrible at relationships because the first thing we do, we distinguish this. We make this delineation. Ray, it's too cold here. I can't do cover crops here. I can't do it here because it's too stinking hot. Remember, I go all over the country. From the south to the north, that's what first thing they tell me. They also tell me it's too stinking wet. Too cold, too hot, too wet. I hear that every time. But guess what? They're doing no-till in Canada, 15 hours north of here. We're doing this in the Arizona. We're doing this in Afghanistan. We're doing it in the hot, humid of Louisiana. What does all these things have in common, ladies and gentlemen? Every region, eco-region, has something in common. What do you think it is? I'm going to walk and call on you guys. What is it? Oh, beautiful. You're beautiful, Tom. Life, biology, everyone has microbes. Yes, the desert has microbes. I actually had a state con say, Ray, we don't want you to come down here because you're going to talk about microbes and we don't have any in the desert. And you're the state con? Wow. Okay. I'm not trying to be cruel, but I was like that too. Did not get it. Do you know what we created? Distinction in the farm. The farm is connected to the forest and the prairie. Where do you think we got it from? They all work the same. They have different uses, but they work biologically. They have the same patterns, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, this is what you got to realize. That is life. 25% of all biodiversity on the planet is in that soil. It is alive. So when you run your disc, you are doing this to this beautiful creature, to all the life that's in there that's feeding you, making all the nutrients available. I said, would you run over your pet with a disc? And one farmer said, it depends on the pet. I said, oh my goodness. You'll always find somebody like that. Okay. That's an actual photo, Power of Life. How many have put cowpeas? I had cowpeas growing in solid gravel. Folks, you know what the most powerful force you have growing in your arsenal? Life. If I use the tool of life of cover crops, that's why I hate the name cover crops, because the ancient people called the plant, the mouth of the soil. It is the most powerful force that you can apply to your farm. Okay? That is Australia. How would you like your farm to be on the top of a gypsum calcium seabed? That sucks. That's close to where I live. And I mean, if you look at where I live in the Ozarks, it's pretty much rock. That's why that's the only place I could afford a farm. But I'm okay because I know biology transforms rock into soil. Why is it dark there on the top? Life. And it can only happen with the living plant. Sorry, don't make the rules. So my job is to keep that living plant 24/7. Okay? So, now let's show us a quick perspective. I just want to give everything a perspective here. Look. Oops, back. Wrong button. Okay, I just want to show you, I just want to build a point. I worked for NRCS Soil Conservation Service. 1935, that's when the agency was put together because this was happening. Do you notice how dark the soil, this is Colorado in 2014. Do you notice how dark that is? That was done in an organic system. No chemicals. Organic farming is not the goal. Regenerative farming. You know what regenerative farming is? Renewal. Life farming. Mimic nature. That's what regenerative farming is. That is not mimicking nature. Let me show you Kansas. That was taken just in December. Isn't that sad? Billions, your money, our money. This happened this year. Do you remember that tornado that wiped out Kentucky? That was that storm that went all the way through there. A majority of our ground. Hey, don't we have some of the best universities in the world? Aren't we the best country and most educated ever? Why are we still here? It's about being brutally honest to yourself. I'm not very bright. I have to be brutally honest. The emperor has no clothes. And you know what happens when the little boy says the emperor has no clothes? They beat up the little kid. Okay, this is moving. We're having a majority of the country moving this direction, folks. They're wanting young people, millennials, by the way, 70% of them read labels. They don't want food from here, they want food from here. This hog here brings $600 a hog. This one's $180. Please understand, we created this, because some people are really, it's easy to accuse the farmer. No. We did this as a society. We pushed, majority of the people live in the city. We only have 1 or 2% of the people feeding the rest of the country. We did this because we wanted to make nature a machine. It was all about efficiency. It was all about yield. And you know the first thing they tell us about? But Ray, you don't understand. We can't feed the world. We got to feed the world. We're not going to feed it this way because this requires huge and copious amounts of fertilizer, natural gas. This thing runs on ancient sunlight. Diesel, coal, ancient sunlight. This one runs on new sunlight. We can feed 11 billion people easily. It's not about feeding the people. It's about doing it the correct method. It's about politics. It's about us as human nature. Look at this one. Which one has relationship with their soil? Which? Deeper into it. Yeah, this one's got it really deep, right? He really gets it. I'm being funny because I grew up here. This was me. This is what I understood. This is what I was taught. This is where we're going, folks. This is where we're going. And the whole country, I'm rejoicing on millions of acres of covers and planting corn and soybean are going in this direction. People are getting away from eating beef, and people have convinced them. What was really a lot of the issues when I talk to people from the West and California, they say, Ray, I don't want my food growing like that. I want my food growing like this. You can understand. My daughter's a vet, going to graduate in 4 months. She said, Dad, I do not want to be part of that. I want to be part of that. Pardon me, sir? How do you get Tyson and Cargill and Hormel to understand? Yes, that's a good point. Let me tell you, Aurora Dairy in Colorado, I consult with them. They moved 10,000 cows and they're all grazed. Organic pastured. Guess what Cargill and some of these chicken guys are doing? Now they're going where they're allowing them to graze the chickens. But how many chickens? They open holes so the chickens could go graze. Very few of them sneak out. So it's kind of deceptive. Just because it's organic doesn't mean you're paying. Look, I'm willing to pay $7 for a dozen of eggs if it's yellow and fit and they ate bugs and grass. That's what I'm paying for. I'm paying for nutrient density. So I get healthy, keep healthy. But you're right, it's coming. Guess who's calling us? We're getting calls from all corporate America to move to Regen Ag and get certification. It's coming then. It's coming, folks. It's coming. And I remember when we first started this 5 years ago, you know what that? Ray, when we first heard you, we thought you were insane and you were smoking cover crops. And I said, you're right, and I inhaled them. You're doing drugs, buddy. They said this was a fad. It's changing the whole world. The whole world, they're getting it. And thank goodness for the young people. Now, this is how you're going to start. I'm going to show you how, with these indicators, how to start looking at your land. When you go to the doctor, there's 4 vital signs he takes. Why? Function. You are complex. It's about function. So he looks at blood pressure. They do that. Very critical. I'm going to show you how to look at your soil, and I want you to look at the vital signs if your soil is functioning. Okay? Okay, first you need to understand this. Your soil is self-healing, self-organizing, self-regulating. Guess who does that? Else, you. If you stop what's the self-regulating mechanism? Your temperature. If your body did not regulate your temperature, you know what happens to you? Death. Same thing with the soil. Every time you leave that ground bare, it gets so hot, you kill the microbes. Not enough cover. Self-organizing. The moment you put that living cover, you had to till, but you went and put that cover, it starts to self-organize, self-heal, self-regulate. right away. But why spend all that energy if you don't have to till the soil and just put the covers in there? It costs energy for that plant having to heal that. Okay, so you have to understand that. You need to understand that soil heals itself, self-organizes, self-regulates. What's the main mechanism it wants? Animal, plant. That's all it wants. And it starts that healing process. Very forgiving. But the soils that I just drove here, this whole place should have been in green, and we should have had covers that big under the snow. They should have been all green. That's the only time you get the self-healing organizing. By the time you plant, you got this much covered, or this much you're planting into. Now you've got self-regulating, self-healing, self-organizing, and then the cost of inputs go down. Okay, now all those indicators, all those functions creates ecosystem processes. What the heck does that mean? It's how nature works. Let's talk about it. Now before we do that, I'm going to show you, this was taken from the Nature and Properties of Soils, which I think is very fascinating. Right here, they did 62 ethnic groups, and they say, hey, what are some of the things that we use to classify our soil? Some of the indicators that are most common in all races. 62 groups, a lot of them. You know what the first one was? Color, texture. Look at organic matter right up here. Is it stony? Is it topography, land use? Pretty all good stuff, right? Look at the lowest one. Soil temperature. Why do you think soil temperature was so low? Anybody? What did I say for the human vital signs? What was one of the critical things for vitals? Temperature. Is it possible that all 62 ethnic groups don't think the soil's alive either? I don't know. But temperature. But people say that they don't have a thermometer, right?
I say unless you live in an area with, maybe in the Rockies and you got the valley and the top of the mountain, then you'd probably pay attention to temperature. But out here, it's relatively homogeneous.
Right. People say, well, maybe they don't have a thermometer. These are ethnic groups all over the world. I say, you don't need a thermometer. Have you ever put your hand on the soil in the middle of the summer? When we get soil temperatures over 105 degrees, you shut enzymes in the soil and you shut down nutrient cycling. Temperature is brutal. Where are we losing a lot of yield? Soil temperature. Soil temperature. But we're going to fix that. Now, observation tools. This is what you're going to do when you get home this spring. It's about observation. Here's what I love. Your fertility is in proportion to the number of footsteps you take out there with that shovel. Your fertility of your soil is in proportion to the number of footsteps you take on that farm with the shovel. Masanupu Fukuoka. If you ever buy a book called One Straw Revolution, read it, buy it. I buy every book about that man. That man taught me more ecology than any professor. From Japan. Amazing man. Okay, first thing I want you to observe. I want you to go to your fence row, and you're going to find out your fence row is like this, or your forested area, and your farm's like this, even no-till. Because if you've just been doing corn and soybean without cover crops, you're not doing that much better. How are we going to change it from here to here? Less tillage, cover crop, every second, every moment, every opportunity, you stick it in there. Then your soils will start to transform this direction, and it happens quick than you think. There's an example. The field, fence row. Do it on your own place. It's pretty darn simple. Nobody will see you. And if you get really depressed, get the forest soil, take a sniff, because microbes can increase. There's a chemical done by actinobacteria, increases the endorphins in your brain. So if you get really depressed, oh, I screwed up. Ah, I'm okay. But don't let anybody see you. Just do it by yourself. Shovel. How many of you use a shovel right now? I know John does. They're always looking. They say the eye is the heart to the soul. The shovel is the heart and the eye to your soil. If you know what you're looking at, and I'll show you how to look at it. Another one. Look at the difference. You know what the first thing I do when I walk in your place? That's the first thing I do. I walk to the fence row. I had one farmer in California. "Hey, I'm a great organic farmer." Really? Look at his soil. His soil looked like that. His little wooded area looked like that. Oh, you're really good. You know another way I can tell if the watershed, the farmers are really good? The lake is clean. Water will tell on you. The soil will tell on you. Okay, here's the 4 processes you need to write down that you need to be on every square inch of your soil. Every square inch of your soil has to do this. You got to capture sun 24/7. The average farm is capturing 110 days of sun. That's it. As soon as corn's off, that's it. You stopped. I want to capture sun, because if I capture sun, I have living plants, because it's living plants that bring in the rain. Case in point, if we took all the plants out of the planet, Helen, see, that's what happens when I know your name now, Helen. What happens, Helen, if we take every single shred of plant out of the planet? What do we have?
Mars.
Thank you. Rock and ice. My goodness, that's how powerful the plant is. 40% of our rain comes from plants inland. 60% comes from the ocean. And then we have bare ground all through the country, from California all the way to North Carolina, bare in the fall and spring. Oh no, humans don't impact the climate. Really? Make it a political thing? It's 4th grade level stuff, guys. Fighting with each other. Water cycle without plants, cannot. I'll show you how the aggregates are built. Next one is nutrient cycle. There is no nutrient cycle without water in the soil, period. I don't care how much fertilizer you put out there. Microbes get the chemical fertilizer and feed it to the plants. Chemical fertilizer you buy in a bag and you spend a lot of money, first goes to the mafia. The research has been around for as long as the 1900s. Only 40% reaches the plant, 60% goes to the mafia. It goes off, volatilizes, you lose, the efficiencies are really poor. Please understand that. Last one. I call it the software of the planet. Community diversity. Diversity, diversity, diversity. There's a good reason the good Lord made us very diverse in race. Because when something tragic happens, some of us will survive. That's called resilience. More diversity, more resilience. Period. More diverse my cover crops, more resilient my farm is. More insects, resilience. Resilience. How many of you have a phone? You see this phone right here? This is plastic and chips and metal and is worthless without the software. Our planet is rock and ice without living plants, period, in life. Okay? I'm telling you folks, yesterday when we had the group meeting, if you walk away and says, oh my goodness, if you take one way, I got to incorporate more life in my farm. Period. That's how simple this is. Okay, let's talk about it. First, the sun. People say, okay, how about geography? Notice here, this is a picture from Nature and Property Soil. Vegetation and forest, most of the carbon's on the top of the surface. Look at the organic matter. Grasses. You know why this country is so awesome in Iowa and that? There were once prairies. Wooded areas. They had soils that were deep because of the grasses. That's why my foundation of my mix is grass. Grass. That's my first cover crop I put out there is grass mixed with someone else. Why? If the grasses leak every square inch and feeding microbes. It's like a little calf nestling at the udder of a mom. Every square inch. That's why people are interseeding. Between 2 corn plants is an ocean of bare ground. I want every square inch covered as much as possible. Okay. Next slide. I remember when I first understood this, I was reading a research paper and I came out screaming out of the back of in the bedroom and I go, honey, the plant and soil are one. She goes, oh my God, I married you. What's wrong with you? Do you know how incredible this? No plant, no microbe, you have geology. That's how powerful the plant is. Okay, this is what's happening in this area throughout the country. This is new sunlight. This is a root leaking hundreds and thousands of compounds to feed the array of life of biology. 1 tablespoon of soil has 7 billion bacteria. And it's what I love about when I feed these babies, they leak powerful enzymes to make phosphorus and zinc and potassium and the minerals out of the rock. They excrete these powerful enzymes. And they bring the nutrients and the fungi and take it to your precious corn and soybean. So the more covers, the more carbon, the more organic nitrogen. It's all beautiful and it's so elegant. Oh man, I get goosebumps thinking about that. Spring. We capture sun about 120 days, depends how long your corn grows out there. This is Illinois in the spring. This is Pennsylvania in the spring. Which producer is making money? Which producer is feeding microbes, holding nutrients in, catch and release, and waiting for the crop for the next year? Which one's capturing sun? Which one's building aggregates? Which one has a lower fertilizer bill, less pesticide deal? No more pesticides, no more insecticides. The farmer on the left, right. This is the majority of our country when we drive. I told the Secretary of Agriculture, if we could do one thing, Mr. Secretary, cover the darn planet, cover our fields. One simple thing. It would change our hope. It would change the weather. Okay, now this is where we're going to get to some science here, more science. Okay, if we stopped, if this part of the country, everybody died of zombie by watching too much YouTube or much of our phones and we go zombie land, we died, what would this country go back to, this area, what would it switch back to? What is the natural tendency of this system to go back to right here? It'd be grass, savannas, some forest, right? Do you know what that's called? Secondary succession. You need to understand that. Why should I care about that term? That's basic biology, ecology. Why? I'll tell you why. Most of the farms are right here. Your farm's right here, most of them. If you're conventional and no-till might be here. When the moment you put no-till to covers, you go here. You move more fungus in the system. I want to be like the forest, but not too much fungi, but I want to have balance. So when I move from here to here, more organic nitrogen in the system, I have more fungi, I have better aggregation. This one here is predominantly weeds. Tillage, more weeds. When I walk on your farm, you know what the first thing I listen to? I got weed issues. Too much nitrogen, nitrate helps weeds. Tillage brings weed seeds on. If you want to have seeds forever, bring them up to the surface and then bury them again. You will have weeds perpetually. Now, this is your homework assignment. Write this down. I want you to go to Merit or Myth website. Merit or Myth, and I want you to listen to Dr. Randy Anderson, weed ecologist, Dr. Randy Anderson. He's got small film. He's got 3 or 4 little 5-minute videos. You will learn about weeds and how weeds work and how you can control them. He'll show you that the worst thing you can do is bury weed seeds. Till them in. I had one guy say, Ray, I know one thing that, one farmer said, I know one thing that weeds will never be resistant to. Tillage. He starts to laugh. Yep. You might as well have told me, why don't I just burn the house down to warm up a hot dog? How a stupid comment. Well, let me destroy it. But hey, I controlled the weeds. Why don't you just put a cover and smother them and roll them in a crimper roller instead of burning the house down? Okay? Please understand, bacteria-dominant soils, these are more fungal dominant. Okay, let's go. I got to move quickly here. How much time do I got, Lance?
10 minutes.
Oh my, see?
15 minute break.
Okay, here's what I'm going to tell you folks, and I know Lance doesn't like this, but I'm going to tell you. I'm going to run short, but I will tell you, any of you can leave at any time, because later this afternoon I only have an hour, but I'm not going to do that to you, because I'm going to show you some really cool things if you're willing to wait another hour after that. Because I got way too much information to share, and I do not have enough time. You will not hurt my feelings if you want to leave at any time. That guy's doing cover crops, smoking, I'm leaving. That's fine. But I got too much information, and we're going to run out of time. But I got too much to show you from all over the country, and it makes a huge impact on the bottom line. That's why you're here. Okay? Anything you want to add to that? Okay. I'm putting him in check, man. He tells me all the time when we're driving, Ray, stay in your lane, bro. Okay? Okay. Really important. 1 teaspoon of soil. Look at the bacteria. 100 million to 1 billion. Cropland, prairie, forest. A teaspoon. Look at the fungi. This is what we want. Cropland, only several yards per teaspoon. Prairie, 100 yards per teaspoon. Forest, 40 miles. Okay, earthworms, look at the difference. 10 to 50. So write this down. I want you to do this experiment in the spring when it's warm, about over 55, say around June. This is what you're going to do. Take a cubic foot of soil, 12 inch by 12 inch and 12 inch deep. You need to count at least 20 earthworms. 20 earthworms. That's equivalent to 850 to 1 million earthworms. If you do not find 20 earthworms in a cubic foot, do it in several spots of your farm. See where you're at. Okay, that's another indicator of life. Why do I care about the earthworms? Because if you have earthworms, you have protozoa, you have all the critters. They need lots of food. They're keystone organisms. Okay, now, what is my goal of the cover crops? I want to get away from a bacteria-dominant, leaky system to here. Cover crops will take me here, and no-till will take me to here. This is where I want to be. Most of you are here, leaky, always high inputs, cannot be in the system. We're trying to shift you microbially that way. How do we do that? Understand your tools. I call it death by tools. Too much tillage keeps you bacteria dominant. Overhaying, when we hay, and I got hay fields, but you know what we do? I don't do hay anymore. But what do people do with hay? Oh no, we can raise up the sickle to this height. No, we're going to take it to here. That hurts that system. You're taking too much energy from now the plant can't build enough aggregation. Now the ground's going to get hard on you. Pesticides. Careful with these because there's a reason they're called pesticide. That Latin word is kill the pest. But it kills all the beneficials too. And fertilization. It's a salt. Ancient times, you know what the ancient people used to do when they didn't like you? They would salt your fields so that you would starve and not grow anything. Those are salts. I'm not against fertilizer. I'm just saying use it carefully. Okay, now, this is how you're going to manage your disturbances. Okay, there's a great book by Dr. Stephen Gleasman called Agroecology, a textbook. There's another jewel there. I read every book on soil ecology. People read little fluffy books like soil will save, little books like that. I read textbooks because I got to answer to every one of you and say, Ray, well, how about this? How about this? Okay, first thing, frequency of your disturbance. How frequent are you tilling? Do you till every 7 years? That's a huge difference in tilling every year. Makes a huge impact. And if you're going to till, here's what people will do. I got a rutted field, Ray. Fine, bring out the disc, fix it. But don't do the whole stinking field. Fix the rut. Then intensity, did you vertical or did you plow? Intensity. Do you know why the disc is such a good instrument for making roads? Because it destroys all the organic matter. Oxidizes, wakes up the bacteria, you make great road. Disc is a great tool for that. Scale. Did you spray one field or did you spray the whole farm? And then the neighbor hears, then the whole county starts to spray. And you could have just checked and taken care of that one field. That's like me telling Helen, I want you to take chemo just in case you get cancer. That's ridiculous. Last one, timing. Timing's everything. Okay, if you got to disc that field, when would I disc my field? So that I don't destroy the carbon in my system and the glues. I would do it at the coldest time of the year. Cold. Below 55 degrees because the microbes can't eat your house. If you're going to do the disturbance, do it when it's cold. The microbes go, oh, they won't eat you. But if you go do it in the spring and that, when the temperature's over 55, they're going to take your lunch. And you're going to slake like crazy. Yes, sir, John.
If you did do tillage when it was cold, let's see we go colder, right above 32 degrees.
Yeah, I prefer that, yes.
But you're still aerating the soil.
Yes.
Whatever depth you do your tillage.
And
when they come alive in spring, they probably will still, your bacterial
well, you still got,
abundance will.
yeah, you still got soil exposed. And I would prefer, like John would say, I would take it closer to 30. Get it 32 and above. Make it cold, guys. But what John is trying to tell you, I'd prefer if you rut at the field and you got to fix something, do that. But don't do the whole field. That's the whole point, learning how to understand your tools. You're going to pay a price. And that's what John's telling us. There's always a price for everything you do out there. Those little things matter. Okay. Know the difference between acute stress and chronic stress. Okay, here's what I'm telling you. If you go eat fast food once in a while, that's an acute stress. But if you eat it every day, don't exercise, don't take care of yourself, that's chronic stress. Soil's the same way. Continue with fungicides, continue spraying, chronic stress. Case in point, how many remember Chernobyl? I'm sure you remember Chernobyl, don't you? You know how old I was when Chernobyl happened? I was 25 years old. Remember, John? What did they tell us about when that plume of radiation went? That was going to be a desert. Nothing was ever going to survive. Has anybody ever Googled Chernobyl lately? It's coming back. How did it do that? Do you know they found a fungi that eats radiation inside the core? Can the soil handle an occasional herbicide once in a while? Yes, especially if it's healthy. Can it handle an occasional tillage once in a while? Yes. Careful with your disturbances. Yes, sir.
Okay, if you say you do tillage on something once every 4, say you got 10 years into it.
Yeah.
And you do it once, how many years did you, has anyone ever done tests?
Good. Yeah. Good question.
How much you actually fall back?
You'll go back a little bit, but it's the continual chronic of it takes us downward very quickly. Like if you're going to do organic, that's why I love the organic farmers that organic no-till. If you got to do a tillage event once in a while, but it's every 3 or 4 or 5 years, it can handle that. And guess what you're going to do right away? Cover a crop, start the healing process. But here's what's happening here. Every year with poor rotations, too much manure, too much nitrogen, downward spiral. It's not just a tillage event, your rotations. Corn and soybean is not enough. Sorry, folks. Won't work. That's why the covers in between change everything. Good question. Why? If you hurt the mycorrhizae, you'll take the springtails out, you take the fungi out, you take all these organisms, the whole system collapses. Then you buy more fertilizer. Now you have to spray more. Then your wife says, how come we're not making any money? No-till and covers. Michael Thompson, how many of you have a microscope? Raise your hand. Good for you. No-till, cover crops, and grazing. Look at the life. That's what provides your fertility. They do that. And the living roots, leaking acids. Now let's look at no-till with huge amounts of chemicals. Look, do you see any life there? What do you see? Do you see any nematodes? Nematodes are the cheetahs, the lions. They need to be present for nutrient cycling. They eat each other and they release nitrogen. Again, no-till, cover crops, grazing. Now, some of you say, but Ray, I don't want to bring animals. That's cool. Covers. Covers. Okay? Now, what regulates temperature? Living plants. Look at the temperature here, 68.9 versus the soil, 66.57. They really help regulate temperature. Look at this picture in France. No-till, conventional. How come the snow is melted here, not here? This is a sandy soil. Anybody? Temperature. More microbial life on that side versus this side. They got more habitat. Also, too, what hurts this thing is when you till so much, you diminish the pore space, you create ice crystals. There's no pore space. Watch this video. This is Jake Blevin in Kansas. This is single species wheat. This is monoculture wheat. Look at the probe. Nope, don't go in there. Expect it, right? Now look at the multi-species mix.
Healthy soil penetrometer test take 2. There's our wheat field from yesterday across the fence. It is March 5th. It's about 10 degrees, I believe. And we're going to give the old penetrometer a try. This ground has had 6-way cover crop blend last summer and a 5-way cover crop blend currently sowed into it, with snow retention and good soil armor from cover crops.
Summer and fall. Look at that. Look at the probe.
That'll work.
How did the probe go in? You just did the wheat field right across, conventional wheat field. How did the probe go in the multi-species mix? Summer mix, fall mix. Captured all the snow, and the probe went all the way in. How did that happen? Anybody? Are we here? Biology, pore space, aggregation. Those cover crops created aggregation all the way down. Captured snow for moisture. That's Kansas. They got to capture every bit of rain they can get. And you know what one farmer told me? He said, but Ray, when I throw a $30 cover crop mix, I don't know if I'm throwing my money away. That's because you don't understand how the soil works. You eat every day. The soil has to eat every day too. That's why the covers are so critical. I change everything, my rotations, everything. Reduce your day length. Time, what time is it? Time for the next person?
5 minutes.
I got 5 minutes.
Wrap it up.
That's impossible. That ain't gonna happen, dude. We got rest of the day. Water cycle. Okay, I already showed you this. This is what I'm talking about. I want you to, this is an aggregate. An aggregate is the sand, silts, and clays fused together with biology. This is what we're trying to build. No-till. Look at the cottage cheese. Look at this. Look at the way it looks versus a till soil. Let's go here. This is what I want to show you. Oop, my aggregate picture is missing. It's okay. So, the soil. Okay, how important are aggregates? Look at this. Oops. Oh, we're on the wrong way. Okay. Hayland. This is taken in South Dakota. Look at the column, rotational grazing. Look at the color all the way to here versus this one. The aggregation. Rangeland, 27 inches per hour. Hayland, 0.59 inches per hour. Rotational grazing. Does it matter how you move the cows? Continuous grazing. What's continuous grazing? You leave the cows, never move them, and you come and see them maybe once a month or once a week and just leave them in the same paddock. Look at the difference. 12, 2.1 inches. Overgrazed, took too much plants. Look at the cropland. 1/2 inch per hour. It's all back to the aggregation. Are we going to give them a break afterwards? Yes, you need a break. I can tell their faces. Okay? This is the soil. Back, 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 back. Okay, so you can see the model run. This is a simulated model. This is what your soil really is in the first foot. It is an underground cavern subaquatic of aggregation of these glues, these BBs, this chocolate cake. That's what creates the pore space. This is what gives us structure. These are hydrophobic glues, supermolecules created by life. That's what you're dealing with. Now the nutrient cycle is this, right here. Not your fertilizer bag. All these critters working in synchrony to break down your residue, break your corn. Without these critters, you'd be stacked up with corn residue. This picture on the left is bioturbation. This is how soil fauna, all the critters on top that I just showed you, need to be present. They take that residue, that corn, that soybean, the forest, they cycle it and put it into the soil. Only 35% of that goes into organic matter. The rest of it goes up as CO2. So the more you disc this, the more you spray this, the more you bother this top of this surface, the more you have to write a check. I don't want to disturb that surface. That's why I use my no-till drill and plant right into that without disturbing the system. Okay? So the difference between all of you here, all of you have sand, silt, and clay, but this is what separates the top farmers. The byproducts of life, these super glues, these organic matter. Geology plus life equals soil. This is not the nutrient cycle. This is crack. It's a stimulant. I'm not against it. It's a tool. But it does not feed the soil. Last one, and we'll wrap it up. And then we'll continue this afternoon, because this afternoon I'm going to go over the soil test and we're going to talk about how we can reduce it. Okay? And if you want to spend a little time with me, I'll show you some awesome grazing. Okay, the software, diversity. Built or being consumed, that is what creates pore space. That is aggregation. That's the first thing I look in my shovel. How aggregated is your soil? First indicator. That's what gives me oxygen for my plant to breathe. So CO2 and oxygen gases can flow freely. Water can flow freely to feed life. Okay, last thing. And we're going to take a break. Oh, how much time are we giving? 5, 10 minutes? 10. 10 minutes. Okay? This is the year in 2007, this is 2006, 2007, when I saw this farmer in North Dakota put this test box together. That's when I got my weed science graduate book and threw it in the trash. Because they told me nature is competitive. Does competition happen? Yes. Competition happens among humans. But in general, the overall pattern and principle for nature is collaboration. Let me show you. Give you the scenario, the context. 1.8 inches of rain in this test box. That was brutal. They put lupin, oilseed radish, plot. They weighed it, measured it. That's what they had in dried biomass. When they mixed all the seeds together, it went from here to here to here in biomass. Let me show you better visual than numbers. Monoculture, 1.8 inches, that's what I expect, turn it pretty much dead. Oilseed by itself, monoculture, pretty much dead. And look what happened when we threw the seeds together. Same plot's right here. I thought plants steal water from each other. No, Ray, you're the only one who went to the bad ag school. They taught me biomass during the absolute 1.8 inches of rain. You look at the research paper called the stress gradient hypothesis. It says when nature is under little stress, it does not compete, but it collaborates. Those leaves shelter each of those leaves, each of those structures, each of those feeding microbes, fungi sharing water, shading the soil, pattern, collaboration. That's why I love 5, 7, 8-way mixes. Diversity, and again, the power. Oh, by the way, you share another one. God only loves North Dakota. It doesn't work anywhere else. Canada, research station. Monoculture triticale, multi-species mix. With triticale in it. Right next door. Most powerful thing you can do in your system is put diversity of life into your source. Okay, we'll stop right here. This is what we emulate. We emulate the prairie and the forest. First, we don't have animals, they're covered 24/7, they catch the sun. This is our pattern. This is the design. Oh, by the way, it's biblical. It's been in the Bible for a long time. Ask the beast, and they will teach you. Look, observe. It's been telling us a long time. This is not new. Book of Job. In fact, the father of ecology says there's more ecology in the Bible than any other book at that time of the year. I mean, back in that turn of the century. We learned so much ecology from that book. And also sociology. Last slide. Folks, we're going to talk about how this afternoon, how I come up with a design for corn and soybean, or how I can look at it, so we can do that this afternoon. And then we can talk about looking at the right soil types. And I brought you a guide. And we're going to talk about that this afternoon. Folks, you earned a great